Welcome to Trial by Wine. We take a closer look at crimes that highlight how fascinating humans can be. Schmidty, Swanee and Clarkey visit crimes and run them through their jury of three, debating both sides of the case to agree an appropriate, if totally fictitious, sentence. Please be advised, Trial by Wine may include explicit or disturbing content and will include drunken rambling. Listener discretion is advised. All right. How you going, guys? Good to see you.
Wonderful. Lovely to see you too.
And Swanee, you good?
I was actually getting invited to something. I was so shocked. I tried to reread it 3 times. I never get invited out. Well, that's not entirely true. I rarely get invited out. How am I? I'm in really sort of what I'd call motherhood mode. It's Mother's Day tomorrow, right?
Yeah.
And I've just been down to take one of the boys down to have an eye test at the optometrist, which is within the local shopping centre. It was like, Christmas week. And we got there and I thought, why is this so busy? And then I remembered I've been there every Saturday before Mother's Day in the last couple of years, for no reason other than I'm always there on Saturday. And it's that mad panic of dads with kids walking around going, oh, where are the slippers? Where are the smelly soaps? And yet, I get nothing. We don't really do it in our house because no one can be bothered. And I'm sitting with the kids as we're going into the car park and I was like, oh, my God, why is it like this? And I went, oh, and I know why. Because of Mother's Day. And they went, oh, right, yeah. I was like, so my kids are fully aware. And then come tomorrow, there will be nothing. And I got this card that I was going to give to my sister-in-law, which says, there ain't no hood like the motherhood. And it is quite true. It can be quite feral in the trenches, let me tell you. But, that's where I'm at. Just
when you
heavy
tell your
mum mode.
stories, when you tell your stories about motherhood, you just reinforce for me that the decision
Not your path, darling.
The decision to not have children was not a bad one.
It's quite it's a ride, that's for sure. And I was thinking about it as I was, sitting in the car with them thinking, well, gosh, how do I feel about it? And it's one of those things, it's the best of times, it's the worst of times, but really it's just all the time. That's the reality of it. It is all the time. It's relentless. So it doesn't really matter if it's good, bad, or whatever else. It's all the time.
That is such a good way of putting it.
Yeah,
it's
I just thought of that this morning.
It's the worst of times. It's all the time.
And that's right. People just think you're going to end it there. It's like, that's not the point I'm making. The best and the worst, those peaks and troughs come and go. But, oh, God, it's the status quo that is
relentless.
The status low, it just goes on. But, it was obvious. I do enjoy aspects of it. And I do enjoy my children. But, wow. No different to any other job. Yeah, so anyway, so sorry about that. A bit of a sidetrack. How are you guys?
All good.
Yeah?
Yep.
Yeah.
A little hungover from yesterday, but otherwise good. I played canasta last night. So I had thought that after we finished recording, I would just sit on the bed, watch some TV and go to sleep. But my other sister sent a text going, oh, let's play canasta. Okay, so what are we drinking?
Go on, Swanee. You want to surprise everyone.
It is truly a low moment because I'm drinking a somewhat cool, definitely not cold, Coke Zero. I was explaining earlier that I had to do a bit of grocery shop this morning because I was all out, which I never allowed to happen. I just never allowed to happen. But for some reason this week I did, and it hasn't had enough time to cool. I don't have any ice, so it's a bit of a travesty. If you think I seem a little flat, that's why.
She's
not herself.
Just
Carla's a bit off today.
Yes.
What are you guys drinking?
Coke.
Something fabulous? No doubt. No, just cool.
We're having a Summerfield Rosé, so from the same winery as the Shiraz we had last episode. It's a single block rosé made from their estate Merlot. Hand harvested in the early hours of the morning to ensure the freshness of the grapes and the purity of the fruit flavour. Fresh fruit and herbs on the nose. A palate has full-bodied, buttery, sweet fruit with hints of citrus. Sounds lovely?
Does. Sounds very sophisticated.
Wow. Cracked it open.
It's got a nice little label.
Don't even put it in the glass, Clarky. Just neck it. It's got a very pretty label. Oh, he is. He's just necking it. Delicious. Get that citrus.
Can I ask a question? Do you drink much rosé?
Yeah.
Oh, see, I have a rosé and I think I had it at the beginning, and I was actually going to send you guys some, and I thought, because I don't smell anything and I can't really suggest things. I went online after Caroline sent the ginger beer, and I went and had a search. I thought, what can I send them? And I was like, I really don't know, because I struggle. But there's a couple of rosés that I do really like, and I have been able to drink them. So you'd be okay if I sent those to you?
Yeah, we would be very grateful.
They're not going to say no.
No, but that's the thing. I was like, oh, if they're not going to drink it, what's the point? And then I was laughing at like all the what do you call them, cruises and stuff. I was like, I can't do that.
No,
all right, then.
No,
I shall
trust me.
organise that.
Don't do the rosé spritzers.
Oh, no, it wasn't even spritz. It was like there was some, the ones that you've mentioned were like mango and chutney, or I don't know.
Right. Mango and chutney cruiser.
Mango chutney.
Mango chutney
That's the
cruiser.
after effect.
That's right.
It's gone straight to, that's where it ends up,
It goes great with a curry.
Oh, yeah.
Delicious.
So, what's that? A mango chutney cruiser on the ground outside the pub. Yeah. Yum.
And Schmidty, what are you drinking?
I have a gin and soda. I'm drinking a bit of my damson gin in soda with some kaffir lime from the garden. So very nice.
Oh, fancy.
Nice. I did originally think I was just going to do the same as last week and go for soda water, and I thought, whatever, it's Saturday. So, who are we? I'm Schmidty.
I'm Swanee.
And I'm Clarky. And together we
are
Trial by Wine.
Wonderful. Oh, so good. Okay, so I'll just get straight into today's story for you guys. So
are you doing today?
I am.
Great.
Yes, that's why I'm going to get straight into the story.
Right.
So my sources for the story are 9news.com.au, thedailymail.co.uk, my favourite, news.com.au, smh.com.au, and the armadaleexpress.com.au, and that should give it away that, yes, it's an Australian story. And no, it was not featured on the ABC's production of Australian Story. I actually checked, just in case. So, as we know, TV today is full of reality TV shows. And one of those that I'm sure you're both aware of, or at least I'm sure Carla's aware of, is Farmer Wants a Wife.
I am.
God.
Yeah. So it's a wholesome show of women competing for the affections of farmers who can't get a wife or a lay.
Wholesome. Who chose the word wholesome?
I feel like you denigrated it somewhat there.
Goodness.
It started off that way though, didn't it?
Oh, actually, it's not too bad. But the whole idea of a bunch of women, competing for the affections of one person, having it filmed, I think is a bit on the nose. But,
awful.
That's just my opinion of these things. Anyway, partly it's difficult for farmers to get wives, partly due to the hard yakka of farming. And from what I've seen, partly due to the farmers not having the opportunity to meet women in their communities or attract them, as the case may be. So this story is about a farmer who really wanted a wife and a family. And he probably would have done better to go on the reality TV show.
So he wasn't on there?
No, he wasn't.
I thought it was going to be a contestant who had been on there who then murdered someone or something.
No. He really would have done better to go on Farmer Wants a Wife.
Farmer Wants a Wife, actually got a wife, realised he didn't want a wife and had to murder her and hide her in the creek out the back.
Well, as far as I know, there have been some successful couplings on Farmer Wants a Wife, and quite a few people have got married and had kids and been very happy. Wow. I'm not aware of any that were unhappy and then killed their spouse. So
I think one accidentally got pregnant last year, and then
accidentally.
The farmer or the wife?
I'm going to say
it's not so wholesome now.
Yeah. They weren't a couple and they weren't together.
Pregnancy is so unwholesome.
Not so much that, more just, clearly a bit of sexy time happening, and if they weren't the right couple and all that sort of stuff, a bit of scandal.
I think it's like all these shows. I think the very first season, the very first cast, probably not now actually, but certainly let's go back 5. I don't think you could go back 10 years, but would you have? I know it started when we were overseas, when I was overseas.
Might be 10 years old.
I think it might be 10 years
let's
old.
just say it was 10 years old. In the initial stages of most of these things, even maths and that, I think, there are people who were genuinely after because they weren't trying to become influencers.
I spoke to someone the other day, literally, who said she's applied for maths, and I said, "Well, why would you do that?" And she said, "To meet someone, I want to, And I thought, hey, have you watched it? Anyway, I'm not sure.
You might get the villain at it.
I doubt it. She's a delightful girl. But I just think, have you seen the show? Are you aware that it's
If
not
it's
really
content,
about
yeah.
that?
I can't even stand the ads. There's no chance in hell I would turn that show on.
Oh, to be honest, I don't watch it, but I've seen snippets of it through Gogglebox, which I do watch and I do love. So that's the other reason I'm aware of maths. Anyway, so it's this show. This story is not actually about Farmer Wants
You may
a
or may
Wife,
not know
so
this. You
I'm
know
gonna
the
move on.
executive producer of Maps?
Brian Walsh.
No.
Oh,
Someone
no.
we used to work with. I won't say it, but you do know someone who basically...
Oh, because I knew Brian.
No. Think of
I wouldn't
someone
say I
our
knew
age.
him, but
No,
we worked,
someone our age,
yeah.
she's the boss.
Oh, okay.
She
cool.
runs it, yeah.
Why
Yeah,
won't you
well,
say
tell
who
me
it
later.
is?
Oh, I can look it up. It's
Yeah.
I'll
fine.
tell her later.
Yeah. Because she probably doesn't want that broadcast on our podcast.
Yeah, but she it's a big job, and there's someone who
Oh,
wants to work
no
with.
doubt. No doubt, yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, if you don't go on a reality TV show to meet the love of your life and you're a farmer, how do you meet people?
Down the pub.
Go to the pub.
Oh, but he's
Go to a
already tried.
BNS.
You've got to assume that he's already tried.
BNS.
The BNS. I don't
Gosh.
think they're as good as they used to
Bring
be.
those
I mean,
back.
oh, do you remember a friend of ours,
I met a few
Clarky,
farmers
used
at
to
a few
love going to
BNSs.
BNSs?
What's that?
Yes.
Do you remember a friend of ours from Foxtel used to
Oh,
love
yes,
going to BNSs? Oh, she was
yes.
all over it. She's
She
what a good
loves
rugged
that shit.
country man.
Did she have a swag that she'd head out and sleep in the back of a ute afterwards?
I'm not sure on the details, but I do
Oh.
know that she absolutely thought they were the best way to meet people. She was originally from the country, though, so
Oh, but I think she's right.
I can see the smile
Especially
on
if you
her
want to
face
meet
now.
drunk people.
I'm going to a BNS.
Anyway, if you don't go to a BNS and if you don't go down the pub and you
Pub.
don't meet anyone in your community, the dating website is, of course, the place to go, isn't it?
Oh, I thought we were going to
That
start
makes
going
sense.
to like the stockyard or the cattle sales.
When you
or
say
the Royal
this-
Easter
You've
Show.
exhausted all of that.
When you
You've
say the
already tried all
dating
that.
website, do you mean Tinder?
No, I think this is pre-Tinder, maybe. So I'm thinking more. It didn't. I looked everywhere to find out which one it was, but I think it's probably more like I'm blanking on the names of the ones that used to exist. Anyone?
Mm,
No,
no.
no.
Harmony?
Cut.
Is
Yeah,
Harmony
maybe
one?
eHarmony. eHarmony.
eHarmony.
Is it still
Oh,
going?
there was
mate? I don't
another
know.
one too, but I can't remember. Yeah, eHarmony still advertises all the time.
Because it's funny you say that, because one of the hill folk, so we live in a valley, and so the people on the hills we call hill folk, and they call us flatlanders, which is
Oh my
always a bit of a
Lord.
laugh.
Oh my God.
But one
I
of
think
them,
that's hysterical.
one of them is newly single, and so he gets on Tinder all the time, and his battery was going flat last night, and he was panicking because he couldn't respond to somebody, because I think the person that was interested in him was passing through or something, and he was worried that he
She
might
wouldn't be able
miss
to
his
meet him,
chance.
or he,
yeah.
or they, or them, or whatever.
Yeah.
I was on Tinder very briefly before I met Tony a long time ago, and I got off it as soon as I started to get dick pics. I was like, this isn't really what I was after.
Were they
Thanks very
attached
much.
to arms?
No, they weren't. They
That's
were
a
attached
shame.
to groins, but it was just like, not quite what I was signing up for on that one. But yeah, that was the thing. So I don't know what the name of it was, and I can't remember the one I was thinking of, but it doesn't matter. But this story basically is a warning to those of you out there. Beware, lovelorn gentlemen, for the magic pussy is real and an ever-present danger.
I've been wondering when they're going to bring
I need to
back
get my
the
MP
magic
t-shirt
pussy.
out.
Yes.
I don't know if I prefer a hat.
Can you
Just
or
a
a
visor.
t-shirt.
Can you change
Merch.
your name to Carla Swan MP so that everyone thinks that you're a minister of
Member
parliament?
of Parliament,
A member of
yeah.
parliament, sorry. Yeah.
Well, it's funny you should say that. I had a conversation with the kids this morning, and I was trying to think of a show that was on. I probably watched it when I was a child, and I'm going to get the name wrong, but it was called John Tapper or John something MD, right? And I was trying to say to the kids, I think in the US, and I could be totally wrong. You'll probably correct me, Schmidty or no. Does MD stand for MD medical doctor, like we say GP general practitioner? Is
That's
that
what
your
I
understanding?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I think it is. Yeah.
Because it was
Oh, anyway,
Doogie
so-
Howser MD.
Yes, and that's
Yeah, I
what
think it's medical doctor.
because we were talking about. I was talking about my brother-in-law who's a GP, and I was saying he would be, da da da, MD, and they were like, I
Yeah,
think that
'cause that's
stands
just
for
general
department. I was like,
practitioner.
no, I don't think it stands for department. I think that's how they,
Yes.
Director?
signify a GP.
Yeah, no,
Yeah, I
it
don't
is.
know.
It is.
I'm going to have to look it up. But anyway, so you think I should add that to the end of my name?
I think so. Yeah, why
I think
not?
it would be false advertising, that's for sure. There's nothing magic about that.
When you said you get your magic, you need to get your MP T-shirt out.
In the day.
Yeah.
Sorry.
In the day.
I think we'll leave it at that.
Yeah.
Right. Well.
Sorry. Moving right
Anyway,
along.
this story brings together a series of themes we've covered on other episodes. So, badgering text messages, dubious Google searches, pre and post meditation, alarm bells, gold diggers, and of course the old MP.
Right.
Our story is set in Walcha, a rural town in New South Wales, about halfway between Sydney and Brisbane and on the edge of the tablelands. Walcha boasts a population of 750,000 sheep, 85,000 cows, and 3,150 people.
Oh, that's a big city.
It's not bad, yeah.
We've got about 310 where we live.
Yeah, I know. You are
Where'd you
really
say it was?
literally in
Where
the
is
middle
it?
of bum F nowhere.
Walcha.
It is Walcha. It's rural New South Wales, about halfway between Sydney and Brisbane.
So it's north.
It's north, yeah.
Oh, I didn't picture that. Okay, radio.
And looking at their website, it's a country town with lovely historic stuff and rivers and shit. In 2007, then single mother Natasha Darcy married Colin Crossman, who was a widower, having lost his first wife in a car accident.
Oh.
By 2009, Natasha Darcy Crossman assaulted her husband Colin with a hammer, telling police that an intruder had hit him. A few days later,
Is this like a Johnny Depp Amber Heard marriage?
Maybe.
Sounds like it.
Could be. I also read that apparently the night she did this, he was a paramedic, and she'd asked him before he went to bed, how hard do you have to hit someone in the temple for it to do some damage?
Oh, I don't want to know.
And well, I don't know what his answer was, but she just tried it out while he was asleep.
Maybe he said, not very hard.
Yeah. Just a tackle
just
to
in
the
case.
job. Yeah.
Far
A few days later, she sedated him by lacing tacos, which makes me want to eat Mexican, and set fire to their house. Colin survived the assault. Well, she was busy.
She's a whack job.
He survived the assault, and Natasha was arrested and charged with attempted murder. However, she admitted to setting the fire and was sentenced for the lesser crime, and I don't know why. And there's not much on that first case, really, no matter how much I looked. Now, if you're wondering why she suddenly decided to knock Colin off, it wasn't because he didn't bring the bins in or fix the letterbox. It was most likely because she had taken out a $700,000 life insurance policy on him a month earlier. Now, Colin and Natasha didn't divorce at the time, as Colin, as it turns out, says he didn't have any money because someone had burnt his house down, but they definitely split up and divorced. Oh, no, actually, they didn't divorce. They just split up. And Natasha also fell pregnant around the same time and claimed the child was Colin's. Now, I don't know why it was reported that she claimed that the child was his, because there was no indication she'd been having an affair with anyone else. But Colin, who looked after her children, she had 2 children already from a previous relationship, remained in their lives and continued to co-parent the now 3 children. She did 9 months in jail, so he was looking after the baby and the other kids.
What year was that, Schmidty? Just for my...
This is in 2009. So after that, and she got out of jail, obviously, she then moved on to another gent in town. Fred Nicholson, a horse breeder and divorcee who'd been single and alone for several years. She dated Fred until it became apparent she wasn't going to get much money out of him, so she stole his credit card and went on a shopping spree at Dick Smith, Noni B, and the IGA supermarket.
Fucking, she knows how to shop.
Shopping
My
spree,
God,
yeah.
she's all
She
over
had
it.
me at Noni B.
That sounds like the kind of shopping spree that you'd go on after you've murdered someone. Not just after.
Well, true, but she also was in Walcha, so there probably weren't that many
I
options.
was going to say, there are probably limits.
But she did manage to rack up a
Country
$7,500. She spent $7,500.
I was going to say, at this point, I would have been wise for someone to say, you can shop online with a credit card, love. You didn't have to restrict yourself to Noni B and the IGA.
Well, we'll get on to
You could have
Natasha's
upgraded to
online
Miller's,
work in a
was it
moment.
Miller's Fashion Club. No offence, Sandy Swan.
Yeah, well, we'll get on to her prolific use of the internet shortly.
Oh.
So poor old Fred reported her to the police, and she thought it'd be a good idea to try and blackmail him. So she accused him of assaulting her to get him to drop the credit card theft charge, but didn't work. Police charged Natasha Darcy anyway, and whilst Fred was very disturbed at the allegations, it didn't stop her getting done for it. At this point, you might imagine she may have considered cooling it a bit, but no.
She's just warming up, was she?
She was. In 2014, Natasha met Matthew Dunbar on a dating website, and as we've covered, I don't know which one. Matthew had been open with friends and family that he wanted love and a family in his life. He'd been quite lonely. He's a sheep grazier, or he was a sheep grazier, who had just happened to own a property and stock worth $3.5 million. And Matthew, of course, was pleasantly surprised when Natasha pursued his affections. Matt and Natasha, who at times I'm going to call Tash just for fun throughout this story, Matt and Tash.
Can we call him Maddie?
Maddie and Tash seem very happy in their blossoming romance. Things clearly were very serious for Natasha, as she thought it was appropriate to start the conversation about his will 6 months into the relationship.
Oh, God.
Schmidty, how old are they at this point?
I don't know.
Surely
to be honest,
that's alarm
40s,
bells.
30s, 40s, any idea?
Yeah, that is alarm bells.
30. I'm going to say he might have been what year is this? 2014. He was about 39, and
Okay.
she might have been 35 or something. I have no idea about her age. I'm going to assume she's a little younger.
But he hasn't been married before or had kids
No,
or anything? It's just her that comes with
no.
the
And
kids.
10
Okay.
years prior, his father had died, and he'd spent a lot of his time building the family business up, the farm. So he'd invested a lot of time into the farm. Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
In March 2015, there's the alarm bells, yeah. In March 2015, she sent him text messages saying, "Don't forget, you need to change your will. And can you promise to do something for me this week? Call the attorney to make an appointment to resolve your will." She waited 6 minutes, and in getting no reply, she followed that one up with, "Okay, your silence says it all."
God. Gold digger much?
Yeah. Eventually, he did take action. I think it was May. So this was in March. And so a few months later, he sent a text to her saying, "I rang the solicitor and organised will change. I love you so much, beautiful. XOXO, 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 XOX."
God. Too many.
How? The giddy rush of new love was slowed down a little, however, and as Natasha had to go to jail for her credit card carry-on and broken parole in 2015. So she'd broken parole, and I think that parole thing was around the attack on Crossman. But Matthew by that time was really devoted to her, and both he and Colin looked after the kids while she was in jail.
This is not the first time, right? What didn't we talk about something the other day when someone was like, "Oh, I'll be back in a minute." Oh, no, that was when they were keeping somebody in the backyard locked up. But I've just got to go and do some time. Can you just make sure things are ticking over here? Yeah, no worries. Is it normal for people to have people doing time in their life and go, "Okay, we'll just keep things going here. I still love you. I know I just met you, but yeah, it's all good. I know you've got to do a time for ripping somebody else off and trying to burn somebody else's house down. No worries."
Well, I think that's the point. I think he did know about these things because he's in a town where you can't avoid it. You know, that would have been pretty scandalous.
Either that,
sure.
or there's just no grapevine in this town.
Oh,
no, I'm sure he
that.
knew about it. Later on, she talks. His mother said that he'd said to her he knew that Natasha had issues and he wanted to look after her and rescue her and make things okay for her. He was just, in my opinion, really lonely.
Bloke.
No, she's not hot. And that's why I absolutely MP. He was just a really nice guy.
Does that make her AMP? Absolute MP. That's when there's nothing else going on, like it's a bit of a prawn situation, we call it. But she's a MP.
Yeah.
AMP.
So let's fast forward to late 2016 when she gets out of jail, and by which time Matthew was really attached to the children.
Oh, I bet.
And, you know, remember he said he really wanted a family. So he'd been co-parenting the kids with Colin, and that whole period of time she was in jail, which was about, I think, 18 months or so. Anyway, so he was really happy to have a family of his own, and he and Natasha agreed that she and the kids should move into his property, which is called Pandora, by the way. So from the time she moved into his house, things took... I know. Can I win?
I know.
I just can't.
I was waiting who's going to say it. No.
That's right.
I know. There's the irony for me is the fact
they
that...
changed the name of the property.
Pandora's MP.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
AMP.
Yep. So from the time she moved into his house, though, things took a bit of a turn for the worse.
No.
Oh.
Yeah, things in their household weren't quite going the way that Matthew had hoped, with Natasha asking to have separate rooms, allegedly, and her ex, Colin, hanging out around quite a lot, but he was also co-parenting the kids, you know. And, of course, she was spending his cash and saying nasty things to him, accusing him of cheating on her, at being at least one of them. Now, we have to remember that the property might be worth a bunch, but farmers usually are a bit feast and famine when it comes to cash flow. So, you know, it depends on,
Absolutely.
you know, have I sold 1,000 sheep this
Yeah.
year and what are my costs and all that sort of stuff. So even
And
though
having
his,
an asset worth, whether it's worth 3
Doesn't
point
mean you've
whatever,
got money.
You've got
That's
doesn't
right.
mean you've got any. It's like the rich in the UK or whatever else. Some of them
100%.
have got
asset
nothing, but
rich, cash poor.
Asset rich,
Yeah,
correct.
yeah. So Matthew had been described by many as a very generous man and a caring man, so it's not surprising he let her spend his money. He'd also been lonely, as we said, and his mother said that he knew that Natasha had issues, but he wanted to help her sort herself out. And remember, to all those lovelorn men out there, rescuing never works. So Matt wasn't happy and depression set in. From Tasha's perspective, she wasn't just hightailing around town spending his money. She was spending quite some time on the internet, which, to be honest, if I lived in a country town, wouldn't be that odd. I probably would too. Now, Swanee, we often laugh about
yes.
our internet search history
Yeah.
because we know that no matter how many times you delete it, it
It's-
can be
Your
recovered.
footprint's there. Yep.
Yep, but it seems our Tash wasn't so canny on that. In February 2017, a month after she'd moved in, Tash starts to research murder methods. I shouldn't
Oh.
laugh, it's so bad.
Far out.
She starts with more natural causes of death relating to poisonous spiders, mushrooms, and 11 toxic plants that look like food, before progressing to how to commit murder, murder by injection,
Oh,
99
God.
undetectable poisons, base of skull vulnerable, and stabbed in the brain.
Oh.
Oh,
Jeez.
no.
That
That
escalated.
escalated, yeah. Far out.
Look, search brain stab
Siri,
Yeah.
images.
Siri, how do you kill someone with an ice pick? Anyway, Matthew's depression was leading him to experience suicidal ideation, which is not funny. And a bit like the girl from Plainville, Nat, or Tash, was not too sympathetic. She once asked him if the rafters in the shed are high enough for him to hang himself.
Jeepers.
So she didn't do that whole kind of spending a period of time saying, don't do it, you need to get
Straight
help.
to the-
She went straight to, look, I've got an idea. Anyway, on the afternoon of June the 13th, 2017, Tash and Matthew had a heated argument over a loan he'd given to an ex-girlfriend. He grabbed a gun from the sheds on his farm and sent Darcy a text threatening to never return. Now, what would your response be if your partner did that? Would you call the police or friends, go out looking for him, send a reply begging him to come home? What would you do?
All of the above, I think.
Mm-hmm.
What did she say?
Swanee? Swanee's looking like she's at a loss. I'm not sure what I'd say.
Oh, I don't believe it. I'd be like, all right, whatever.
Oh, I'm going to call
I
you
would believe
Tash.
Yeah, I know. But I'm not in a situation where I would expect that to be the case. I don't have someone who's in that sort of vulnerable state. But if I was
Assuming he was in a vulnerable state,
then of course I would panic and reach out to his friends, the people that knew him closest, to see if I could just to rally. I think for my own sort of if I was scared, I'd want other people to say it's okay, let's find him, whatever else. Or if he reached out to somebody else, just I'd want the word out there that I'm scared. Help me, people that know him. Yeah.
Well, if you were Tash, you'd do nothing. You'd wait hours and then finally text him to ask him to bring home food for dinner.
Is the job done?
It's a bit fucking hard, isn't it? If he's gone and done what he said he was going to do.
Yeah, I doubt he's going to come home with food for dinner. No. Fortunately, Matthew's closest friend, Lance Partridge, convinced him to hand his gun over to police, who then attended the property in response to a call. And what do you think Tash said to them when they showed up?
He's just gone out to get dinner?
No. Do you want to search the property to see if I haven't buried him somewhere?
Oh.
She goes on to say, Matthew can be an attention seeker, and I just thought he was having one of his poof to hissy fits.
Oh!
Outrageous.
Bit old school there, Tash. Bit
Fucking
old
hell.
school.
Game on, Mole.
Yep. It's around this time she starts to tell the police his depression comes from him being homosexual.
God.
Now, he had one dalliance with a man that I could find, but it didn't work out. And whilst most people who knew him said he was heterosexual, it's perfectly feasible that he might have been bi or, we'll never know. Yeah. But most of his relationships and most of his interests seem to be in women. He then went to a mental health facility in Tamworth where he spent 2 days, and one of the doctors recalled that he found Matthew to be one of the least unwell people I have ever met in a public institution.
One of the
Least
least
unwell.
unwell.
I know, double negative. Basically, he wasn't.
Fine.
He was fine. He was not a suicidal. He seemed okay. Dr. Stanton, who treated Matthew later, testified that he was depressed, but it was caused by his situation with Tash, and he's the person who cited that she'd accused him of cheating. He had money concerns and all those sorts of things. So that's where I got some of that from. And, this is a pretty new story. No one's wikied it for me. So I've put it together by testimony from the court case later and put it back into the kind of timeline of events that I could discover.
Yeah.
Don't you hate it when no one wikis it for you? It just makes so much more work.
It's not helpful, I know. I will, however, to be balanced, point out that searches on the family computer included terms such as how to stop suicidal thoughts.
That was probably him.
It might have been.
searching for that.
That's the point. We don't know who was searching for what.
Oh, I'm going. We do.
On balance, there was a lot of stuff around how to kill someone without being discovered and that sort of thing, and how to commit suicide and painless suicide and that sort of thing. So while Matt was away, so he was away for these 2 days, so we're pretty comfortable that she was the one searching. Tash was back on the computer researching the best methods of suicide and conducted numerous searches about asapromazine, which is a type of sedative for rams. There were searches for oxycodone murder, murder by inducing heart attack, murder by stroke, murder by injection, asapromazine murder, lethal dose of oxycodone, 200-pound male, and simply how to commit murder.
200-pound male.
Yeah.
Ugh.
It's a bit of a sign. And the research was punctuated by periodic queries like, can police see websites you visit on your mobile? Yes, they can.
As it turns out.
Yes. On June 19, 2017, Tash tried to source RAM sedatives from 3 different vets without success. Walcha vet Dr. Rachel Grieg thought her request was so odd she phoned Matthew to ask if he needed the strong sedative. When he told her he did not, Dr. Grieg was so disturbed she rang local police and made a statement about Tash's attempt to purchase the drug she had no use for.
Oh!
Mm-hmm.
Brilliant.
What we've talked about this before. People seeing something. Someone speaks up.
Yeah, nice.
Well, she
Put on.
did.
This woman can live with her.
What did the defective
They should
detective
try.
do?
I don't think anything was done about it because eventually Natasha did find a clinic in Armidale where a male vet doled out a 100ml bottle on June 28, 2017. Her details were taken down as Natasha Pascoe from the non-existent address of 4 Daly Street, Walcha, which she put down to mistakes made by the really, really young girl at the till. She said a horse trod on the 100ml bottle the very next day, smashing it. Just over a week later, however, Matthew
So why did she say she'd bought it?
She didn't say why she'd bought it. She just said, I've got it, and it got broken anyway.
So don't worry about it, yeah.
Correct, yeah. A week later, Matthew landed in hospital with a calf infection so severe that at one point a surgeon contemplated amputating.
Jesus.
Yep.
What happened there?
I don't know. The farmer told doctors that according to Tash, he'd gone for a walk around the farm on Friday night. He had no memory of the walk nor of Saturday. Later, Tash told police that Matt was depressed at the prospect of losing a leg, very difficult for a farmer to be disabled and run a sheep grazing business. But testimony later from his doctor said he was very happy with the results and he'd make a full recovery. So there's quite a bit of contradiction on that one. On July 31, Natasha ordered a bottle of helium from the Supergas in Tamworth, and both Matthew and Tash went and picked the bottle up the next day, August the 1st. At 1:14 a.m. that night, a text was sent from Matthew's phone to Colin Crossman. Colin.
Yeah.
Yep.
Cole.
Well, he's not, as I said, not only the estranged husband, but he's also the local paramedic. And it read,
is he?
yeah, tell police come to house. I don't want Tash or kids to find me.
No.
Now, according to Natasha, who was the only person in the house at the time, she was sleeping in the lounge because, he had this infection in his calf. His leg was really painful. She says that she'd kicked it the night before in bed, and he'd said, "Can you sleep on the couch? Because that really hurt."
But
So
didn't she want
says,
separate rooms when she first
Anyway.
moved in?
yeah, and that was only mentioned once or twice, and there was no evidence of that anywhere. And so it's. I had the same thought, which is if she's in a separate room, why is she on the lounge? What's
I think her
what?
pants are on fire.
Possibly. I think she's a truth stretcher. In fact, I know she's a truth stretcher, 100%. Anyhow, according to her, she was in the lounge and she got up to put more wood on the fire at about half 1, quarter to 2 o'clock a.m. She caused smoke to set off the smoke alarm, when you open the door and a big gush of smoke comes out. And she went into Matthew's room to explain the noise, but she found him unresponsive on his bed. A plastic bag over his head connected to the helium bottle. She called 000, and in what the papers called a twist of irony, the first responder was her estranged husband. Now, Clarkie, you live in a rural setting.
It's true.
Is it odd that the first responder to an incident is someone you know?
I would
Like
say,
if he's the local paramedic,
yeah, no,
big
it's not.
deal.
Mm.
Yeah,
It's not at all.
it's not ironic or coincidental. It's maths. Anyway, and that's MATHS.
Not maths.
Not maths. Married at first sight, yeah. And you don't do that. No, that's right. The police attended the scene and an investigation began. The standard process for police and forensics is to objectively review the evidence to determine the cause of death rather than take the word of the lady in the house. The house was searched and they found a NutriBullet glass, still dirty, in the dishwasher, which then, when tested, found a high number of sedatives. As the police searched the kitchen, Tash was noted to say, "You've probably seen my coffee machine. Yous can give it a whirl if you like. Just press a button and a cappuccino comes out." Oh, and Matthew's gay. Just to add another angle, I think he had a lot of issues to do with that. Like, that was a lot of depression. It was tough being a farmer, being gay. She's just saying when they're there. Yeah.
It's not.
Grab a coffee.
Then she says,
Grab yourself a coffee.
as evidence of him being gay, in reference to the fact that she and Matthew had been shopping the day before his death, Matt loves grocery shopping. That's one of the things I love about him. He's a great shopper. Oh, he's just so good and he can always find bargains and everything. And yeah, it must be the gay in him. I can tell you, Tony loves shopping at Aldi and buying weird gadgets we don't need and shit we don't need. But my gaydar has never gone off just because he likes to do some shopping.
Shopping, correct.
Yeah. She also told police that they had met when Matt found her on the side of the road walking in the rain. But we know they met on a dating website. Yeah. So these are the shit that she just decided to dole out on the day that the police arrived and were investigating the house. So she continued to live on the property through the investigation, and our mate Cole spent quite a bit of time there. But remember, he co-parents the kids and she has nowhere else to live. So I didn't think that fact was particularly odd. The police determined that Natasha Darcy had murdered her partner, faking the suicide text to Crossman, doing dry runs by injecting him with a ram sedative, causing his calf infection. And by the way, there's no evidence of that. For whatever reason, they've just decided to connect it. And eventually sedating and gassing him. The case went to trial and Natasha Darcy pled not guilty to murder, but she did admit to being an accessory to suicide, which was something she wasn't even charged with. The defense...
How does that work?
Yeah.
How do you
in my
do that?
opinion, and look, the statement I'm about to make is probably really unfair. I tried really hard to work out how I could get the transcripts of the case so that I could actually read how the case went down, but I can't. Well, I can, but it'll probably show up in 6 months' time and I've forgotten this case by then. From all the reporting, though, it would appear that the defence did a lacklustre job at defending her. But having said that, they might not have.
If I was a defendant, I would deliberately have done a lackluster job of defending her too.
Maybe.
No, definitely.
They're like, it was a public defender who defended her, and they are meant to be doing their job as well as the prosecution. So that's what I'm saying. I'm not sure. It just from what I've read, it looks pretty piss poor, but it may not have been. There might just not have been much to defend her on because it seems that the evidence of proof is overwhelming. But she only called one witness, who was a suicide expert who posthumously diagnosed Matthew Dunbar with depression, having never met him or treated him. And this was countered by the prosecution, bringing in the psychiatric doctor who treated him at Tamworth, Dr. Stanton, who said he wasn't ill, he was fine, and his depression was all about Tash, not anything else yet. Apparently, her lawyer also very helpfully said that she admitted that she had told many lies about Matthew's death. That's good for your defence lawyer to say that, isn't it? The court heard evidence of her prior attack on Colin Crossman, her procurement of ACE, which is the asaprotamine or whatever it's called, and her statements to police. Included in the evidence was the transcript of an undercover recording taken at Tamworth Jail while she was in custody. She didn't realise she was talking to police, and I find this quite dubious, this bit. But apparently, because I did do a little bit of research by calling someone who works in this sort of space, not Reggie, but someone else, apparently it can be admitted in evidence. But that person who works in the in the Victorian space said, I don't really know much about how New South Wales works. It is questionable though, because if you're not under oath if you're not under warning and all that sort of stuff, should this even be admitted? So this is where this thing starts to get a bit dodgy in my mind.
What was it?
Well, she was in custody, right, waiting trial, and they sent 2 undercover police people in to try and get her to admit something or get more dirt on her.
Oh, okay.
And that's the bit for me that says if your case is so strong when you've charged her with murder, because normally what will happen is they'll have determined that the likelihood of getting a prosecution is pretty high, and so then they'll charge, but they're obviously still fishing. So I just find that interesting. So anyway, 2 female police people spent time with her in the cells, and here's some of the transcript of those conversations. One officer says she had overheard detectives outside talking about Matthew's toxicology results, which is complete bullshit. But anyway, and Tash says, did they say anything about ACE, asapromazine, which is generally used on rams before shearing and horses, and it was one of the 4 sedatives, along with temazepam, clonidine, and Seroquel, detected in Matthew's blood. The time she asked that question, sitting in the cell, she hadn't seen the toxicology report herself, and she wouldn't have known what he had taken. She wouldn't have known what was in his blood, put it that way.
If she didn't put it there.
Well, that's what they're implying, right? Yeah. But we all know that she went out to buy the stuff, and we know that she said she'd helped him commit suicide, and we know that he was suicidal, whether or not she was the reason for it. This is why I'm saying everything that you read on it, everything about it, you just go, oh, cut and dried, she did it. But then you start to look at this sort of stuff and go, oh, this is starting to feel weird.
No, none of this is making me feel weird. She did it.
Okay. All right. So, well, and that's fine. The other cellmate says, oh, they were saying heaps of stuff. Like, what's the ACE one? And she replies, oh, it's, I don't know about that one. Later in the covertly recorded conversation, Darcy admitted to Googling asapromazine and clonidine after Matthew died. I didn't think I had anything to hide, but it sounds like I do, she mused to her new friends. She said she had searched the drugs because she thought Matthew had taken them and wanted to know if they would show up in the toxicology report. But I thought that would be a good thing if these things show up because they prove that. Oh, anyway, maybe not. Oh my God, this is terrible. He would be devastated, like absolutely devastated if he knew that I was going through this. The officers also
he would just die. Die.
The officers also mentioned a folder containing Google searches and asked why she made so many. I just wanted answers, and Google's been my greatest friend.
Oh.
Now, here's another twist.
I wanted answers to things
I wanted answers to stuff like how to kill my partner. Yeah, exactly. While in jail awaiting trial, she wrote to a friend who reported the letters to the police, and they were also used as evidence in the trial. She offered the friend $20,000 to lie about Matthew, saying she had been inspired by an episode of Frasier in which Niles asked Frasier to lie in court, sparking a moral dilemma. She asked the woman to tell several specific lies about Matthew, including that he had spoken to her about planning suicide. If the lawyers ask for your phone records, just say it was over 2.5 years ago and you don't keep them, she wrote. Shocked, the friend cut off contact. Tash wrote again, this time apologising. If the amount I offered offends you, I can give you...
Oh, she's brilliant.
I can give you as much as you need, she wrote. This reminds me of a funny saying, which I can't remember word for word, but it was something like, if you're ever in trouble, I won't be there to support you because I'll be next to you helping you hide the body. Lol. Now, Clarky, You and I both responded to a meme on Facebook the
We
other day that
did.
said, your first at will help you hide the body. And we thought it was funny.
Yes.
Whoops. Let us recall our digital signature here.
Yes, but we haven't murdered anyone yet.
Oh, I'm glad you added yet.
Yeah.
No, we haven't. We're not intending to. So it was
Yeah.
also entered into evidence that she did more searching on Google after Matthew's death around legal proceedings and police procedure. And, you know, to be honest, so what? Like, I would too, probably, just because she wanted to know things about, like, how long before an investigation happens would you get charged, you know, that sort of stuff.
How long do you get charged
Like,
after an
how long
investigation?
I think it was how long is it likely for an investigation to take place? It was, I don't know, sorry, I probably trial by
that's
whining
sign
that
of
and making
guilt.
that up a bit.
Yeah. Guilty.
Well, the point is it's been taken as a sign of guilt.
Where's my gavel?
And I'm not convinced. I gave it to you and then I took it back by accident, but I will eventually give it back to you. Sorry. It was accident. I put it in my bag and I thought it was the one I'd taken for myself, and I've got all of our gavels. I just will get them to you at some point in the future. Anyway, long story short, whilst the evidence against Natasha Darcy is almost all circumstantial, the jury was satisfied beyond reasonable doubt that she was guilty of murdering Matthew Dunbar and was sentenced to 40 years in jail with a minimum 30-year term pre-parole.
Yes.
She was dubbed the Widow of Walcha, and I'm going to assume that's really Black Widow of Walcha, but you know how we like a good alliteration, in the press, and there's not one story I've read that didn't clearly indicate that the author who wrote it thought she was guilty. There is conflicting information in these accounts, some caused by Tasha's truth-stretching and some by misreporting, from what I can tell. So, on a final note, well, I say that, I read somewhere that people in the township, knowing she'd attacked Colin and stolen from Fred, were openly concerned about what she might do to Matthew, and the police had started a strike force before Dunbar died.
Not very successful.
Well, I don't know if that's true or not. I just read it in one thing, and I thought, that's really weird. And when I asked my contact, she said, that's really weird. But who knows what happens in country towns, was what she said.
Yeah.
Really?
So, yeah. So whilst I can see that she had form, she was obsessively researching murder and suicide. She got the RAM sedative and she told lies throughout the whole thing. What I don't know, as I said before, is whether Matthew Dunbar was suicidal and killed himself with or without her help. Remember, he went and picked up the helium bottle with her. There was DNA on a rubber band, which was around his neck to seal the plastic bag, and some on the gas bottle, but she herself said that she turned the gas bottle off when she discovered him, and so that's not conclusive. And there was no DNA that I'm aware of on the plastic bag itself or fingerprints, her DNA thing.
If the
and the prosecution, and then the prosecution said the DNA evidence wasn't that important in the case. So they didn't rely on it because it didn't stack to the story that they were telling.
Wow.
I was going to say, if he had a plastic bag over his head and had an elastic band around it to make it airtight, and helium was being pumped into it at a rate of knots for quite some time,
I don't know how it didn't burst.
He would fucking turn into a helium balloon and he'd be up on the roof.
I'm with you, but I also don't know how it didn't like pop, because if it had like a shower hose or something in the plastic bag, wouldn't you imagine it would just blow up and burst?
She's
and a very high pitched voice.
She sedated the fuck out of him and then gassed him.
Well, that's precisely what the prosecution and the police were saying. Yes, the entire prosecution case relied on the jury coming to the conclusion that she was a black widow who carried out premeditated murder.
Yeah,
maybe she did. Maybe she didn't.
No, she did.
If her defence had been adequate,
well, no, she definitely did, because she's been found guilty.
Okay, if her defence had been adequate, would they have had cause to have reasonable doubt? Was this a case of town opinion against a person or murder? What conclusion does this jury come to?
Guilty as fuck. Yeah, fucking. She's gone.
Look, I thought the same to start with, and it's just how biased everything was that made me question it a bit. And honestly, I wouldn't be surprised to read that she's going to try and appeal or something. But she also had a public defender. Like, she didn't lawyer up with, because she also didn't have any money to lawyer up.
She never had a fucking job. She had no value to society.
Farm.
She just sponged off everyone, tried to kill them, fucking hit them with hammers, stole their credit cards.
Well, that wasn't great.
Tried to get him to change his will. Ugh, she's awful.
Even that was interesting because you know how when we did the court case with Reggie, we were talking about how the lyrics of that rap song bore no merit to the case and shouldn't have been entered into
Yes.
evidence.
Yep.
And I recall quite a lengthy discussion between us about that. And so I was interested in why the Crossman case and the Fred Nicholson things were entered in, and it is to do with about establishing a
Pattern.
of behaviour. Yeah, it's most likely to do with saying it's relevant because
God,
you can
should
see
be.
that she's actually had a pattern of sedating people in the past and attacking them in one way or the other. Yeah.
Well, that's just a coincidence, is it? And she's
Yeah,
actually been set up. Yeah. What a coincidence.
So that's my case of the Widow of Walcha.
Ah.
So who do you want to do? What do you want to do? What do you want to do with her?
Yeah, I've got a sentence for her. So I don't like her.
Okay.
I don't like her fucking
Me neither.
homophobic bullshit.
Really? I hadn't noticed.
Nah, fuck her.
I'm not a
Didn't you
fan
pick up on
either.
that?
She's gone. And if we're calling her, so if we're saying this all happened because of magic pussy, then she's going to be the first person to get sentenced to the ravages of Clarkey. And what I'm going to do is put her at the top of a very, very long banister, and she's going to have to slide all the way down the banister naked, but the banister is sandpaper.
You wouldn't want to
And
see that, I tell you.
She's going to get rid of her magic pussy by
Oh!
travelling down the sandpaper banister till it is no longer. That's my sentence for her.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, I don't like her.
And Swanee, I know that you have a tendency to do some Googling while I'm telling a story, or any of us are telling a story. What have
Yeah.
you come up with?
Nothing new. Nothing new.
You've seen that
I've-
she's not hot, though.
I have seen that. I have had a little bit of a look, and yeah, there are these things that frustrate me in all of these cases are the warning signs.
Yeah.
You know, people just here we
Well,
are
apparently the
again.
whole
It's
town
a bit of a
knew
yawn
that-
down for us, isn't it? It's like, oh, are you prepared to just ignore everything? Like, sometimes there are things
He
that
was.
are hidden.
He seemed to,
Yes.
yeah.
Correct. Sometimes things are hidden or they've been explained away. The fact that Colin was still around, Colin had been a victim before, she was doing time. You know, it's all out there. I don't know how desperate you need to be able to turn a blind eye and just go, oh, this is really shit. And this whole idea of going, oh, it's not working and I'm depressed. I'm sure he was a miserable son of a gun. But
Yeah.
maybe ask her to leave. Maybe, maybe say
I think
this
he was
isn't
very
working.
attached to the children, though, and I think the
True,
same with
there was
Colin.
that. Yeah.
I think
Yeah,
both of
actually,
them
I think
stuck
you're
around
right.
because of the kids, not because of her.
Which makes me like her even less, because I do feel that they probably, I bet you're right, I bet you they were really taking up the slack where, she was busy online trying to find how to get a
She was
Get some
at one
sedatives.
point. At
Yeah.
one point, I don't know what her mothering style was, but at one point, I read that she was in the middle of searching something about
Yeah.
murdering him or suicide or something, nefarious, and then literally within minutes, because she tried to make out that anyone could have been searching. In fact, she made out that Colin had used her. Sorry, not Colin. Maddie had used her phone because his
Yeah.
didn't work that good. And so he was probably the one searching. But like moments after that search, a text message was sent from her phone to her daughter saying, "Feed the horses." So, it implied that
Truth
she
stretcher.
was
She's
the
a
one
bullshit
telling
artist.
the kid,
Yeah.
"Oh, don't forget to feed the horses."
Yeah.
In the middle, I just got reminded while I was looking at poisons for horses and sedatives for horses and rams. You better feed the horses.
Yeah. The thing I'm not quite clear on is, was it all about money all the time? She just sounds like she's a bit of a. Sometimes we just come across people and I think they're just not nice people.
Yeah, and
No,
her
okay,
background,
let's
her
set
background
aside
wasn't
the money.
poverty. Her background,
No.
she wasn't poor. She had a loving family background. There was nothing that said,
Yeah.
she wasn't a victim of abuse. There's no
No.
indication that there was anything about her apart from the money. Yeah.
The quick cash.
I find it very difficult to have any empathy for her in any capacity, because it just seems like, well, what do you want? You want the money. And the fact that she'd just go from one to the next, it's like, and didn't the guy in the middle, I think I'd written some notes at the beginning, there was one that was probably like a lucky miss. Where's he?
Yeah, Fred Nicholson. Yeah.
Fred, yes.
Yeah,
And
he actually went on, I think it was a current affair, one of those, and he literally said, "I dodged a bullet."
Yes, yeah.
He said
I
something
think
like,
that they're all-
he said, what was it? I was a mullet, and Maddie was the marlin. You know, she was just interested in.
Oh, what a great saying.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, wow. So he was just lucky that someone with a bigger
He thought he was
pocket.
really lucky
Yeah.
to get away from
Oh,
it. Yeah.
see,
Yeah.
that makes it even more disgraceful.
And
You
all
know, it's
three
just-
men were, and I made the point about divorced or widowed
Lonely,
or
yeah.
sad. Yeah. So she absolutely targeted, she appears to have absolutely targeted vulnerable men. Yeah.
Yes, because that is an interesting thing because, you know, everyone's got friends. Everyone's like, oh, I can't find a boyfriend. I can't find whatever else. And then someone like this who's so evil manages
Magic
to, and it's
pussy.
because it's that, but it's also knowing your audience. You know,
Yeah.
They know who to be targeting. You know what people are prepared to turn a blind eye to, ignore, whatever else. So she's just, I don't know.
Gross.
Really, I want to. What a bitch, really.
Yeah.
In that real, just yuck.
She's the kind of woman who gives womanhood a bad name.
Totally.
You give womanhood a
A
bad
bad
name.
name. Oh my dog! You have to have a look at this while we are speaking. Last night there was a photograph of. I've never been a Bon Jovi fan. I don't really like their music. But John Bon Jovi's
Right up there
son.
with Savage Garden. Yep.
Oh, hate
Go
them
on.
too. You have to see John Bon Jovi's son. He is this
The image?
hot version of him. Yes.
Mm.
It was in the Daily Mail.
Right.
Please. I mean, it was clearly a model shot, but he was really good looking.
We'll check it out.
Please, I'm going to look it up right now. John
While you're doing
Bon-
that, can you think about what
A
you're going to
sentence?
sentence her to?
Well,
Yeah.
I'm struggling, as you can tell. Do you know
Uh-huh.
what I want to do with her, Schmidty? She doesn't seem to be that bothered about spending time away from her kids. She's continued to commit crimes, and they're clearly not reason enough for her to go straight and behave
No.
herself. So that's of no consequence, really. That's not going to bother her too much. Just seems like she goes from one guy to the next, although, I don't know, it just comes back to money. And what was she doing with it? She just wanted, I don't know, do you know what I mean? The idea of getting
wanted to spend
access
Yep.
to his property would be that she would then sell it, I guess, and then get the money
Mm-hmm.
on his. All right, well, I'll take her to Trial by Wine World.
Mm-hmm.
Where do I want to take her? There's so many options now. It's such a such a complex
We
place.
do
We
actually
really do
need
need to map
someone.
it out.
We really do need a fan to map it out for us
It
because we've
needs to be
lost.
mapped out.
I don't know about you, but I've lost all sense of the scale, size.
Do
and
we
the
have
world.
any livestock or any animals or anything on the property anywhere? Just
Oh,
seeing, could
well-
we get her out mucking out stalls and just being
Yeah.
I'd just like to see her invisible, where she's just in.
Well, I'm
the
sure
back
there are animals in
lots.
peasant world.
Oh, thank you. That's what it is.
Yeah.
She's down in the stables of Peasant World, just mucking out the stalls. None of the animals like her because they know that she's a bad person, so she's not able to get any sort of empathy or affection from animals because we all know that animals could really make her very happy. That doesn't work for her because they can see through, they can feel the bad energy. She's just on her own, left with her own thoughts and, no access to certainly finding a new man or a new anything online.
Or the internet.
Yes, no internet. That's just her trial, or her sentence is just to be stuck down, mucking out the stalls.
Yeah, nice.
No money, no nothing. I know that doesn't sound very exciting, but you know what I mean? She just is. I don't want anyone to have to deal with her, frankly. She's just a truth stretcher.
A waste of
She's a-
oxygen.
A nasty truth stretcher.
I'm going to
And
put
someone
a,
would be next. She'll find
she'll
someone
just
else.
find
And
another
we
one.
know she will. She will find someone who's that desperate to believe that she's changed. And here we go.
Well, I'm going to connect her to a previous sentence that I did for Ed Gein.
Yes.
So I'm sure you all recall the crafty motherfucker that is Ed Gein. And I had him in like
Craft.
a really secure acrylic box, like Silence of the Lambs style-y, and he's not able to talk to anyone. But remember I said about having a middle-aged sort of woman who looked like his mother walk past him all the time and not talk to
Yeah.
him. And not,
Yes.
She is going to be dressed as the middle-aged mother, and that's her job, is to walk past him every 20 minutes. She's not allowed to speak to him, and even if she did, he'd probably kill her and cut her head off and boil it. And she's not allowed to talk to anyone else. So a bit like you, Swanee, in that she's cut off from everyone. But I'm
Yeah.
going to use her because she'd be very useful to be dumping along because she's a bit dumpy. She can just dump along down the pathway past him, wind him up. She gets nothing out of it. I'd not dump in a way of poo,
No, I
Clarky.
see what you mean.
I just saw Paul's face when I said that. No access to no access
Carla
to men
just sent me a text.
other than psychos, and no access to any money, internet, or anything. She just does that daily walk every day past Ed Gein, and then turns around and does it again.
I'm worried that she's going to end up on his nipple belt.
Well, be that as it may, the security at Trial by One World is pretty good, but if we
Only
have
in
an
certain parts.
OH&S slip up on occasion,
So be it.
so be it. Never mind. And that is my sentence
Well
for
done.
the Black Widow of Walcha, I like to call her. Yeah. Okay.
She's a piece of work, isn't she? Yeah.
Ugh.
Sure, she
Isn't it
wasn't.
funny? She really pisses me off.
Oh, I
Do you know
tried
that's
so
a-
hard. I
Yeah.
really did try to inject this idea of not that it's been an unfair trial, but it wasn't the best trial. It was totally circumstantial. I don't
I
even know how it
appreciate
stood
what you
up.
tried to do there. I do like the fact that you've tried to do that because it does sound like it was stacked against it, but
No.
there's so much
No.
evidence and so
Look,
much
it's circumstantial
prior
evidence,
form that
but
it's like, oh, she's not a good person.
but on balance, yeah. So I
Yeah.
got to this point going, on balance, I think she did it. Yeah,
Yeah.
I absolutely think she did it, and she did it. There were searches around helium, the use of helium for killing someone too. So it was there. It was there. So I'm not saying that she didn't do it, but I just wanted to be fair about it. But I really do think she probably did do it. So have fun, Mrs. Gein, as you're pretending to be Mrs. Gein. She can get a little bit of theatre in there, and she just waddles down the
and
path.
it was a great idea. I've not thought of sort of doing the Venn diagram when we cross over certain stories and punishments. We've had some absolute horrors that we could match people up with.
Yeah.
Good idea, Schmidty.
That's
I like
true.
it.
Maybe we could have a reality TV show which was like Married at First Sight, but it's with killers.
Yeah, we match them up. Oh,
Farmer
I know
wants a
you've
wife
got a little
because-
bit of a penchant for.
Well, actually, yeah, Ed Gein was a
Craft.
farmer, remember? Well,
Yeah.
I think
Oh,
he had a
Ed
big
Gein.
property,
Oh,
so
God.
maybe he could be the farmer and she's on the farmer wants a wife. And she has to compete for his affections. And, if she ends up on a nipple belt, well,
So
never mind.
be it.
Yeah.
Goodness.
All right. Well, thank you very
Well
much,
done, Schmidty. That was
guys, for your
interesting.
time. Appreciate it. I enjoyed that. I enjoyed researching that one. I thought it was an interesting case.
No, it was very nicely presented.
Thank you. And I shall see you next time.
Bye, ladies.
Okay. Bye, everyone.
Miss you already.
Arrivederci.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Thanks for listening to Trial by Wine. You can contact us at trialbywine@gmail.com. Please rate, review and subscribe to Trial by Wine on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts. If you'd like to support us, you can become a patron at www.patreon.com, Trial by Wine, or visit our website www.trialbywine.com to donate to us. Your support will help us cover many more cases and apply wacky sentences. We really appreciate you listening and hope you tell everyone about us. Our cover art is by John Christo and music is by Beauchamp from pixabay.com.